2025, we have 95 cases of press freedom violations. While it is a drop from 130 cases that we had last year, but you notice that globally in the press freedom index by Reporters Without Borders, Kenya dropped from number 62, I think, to number 116. Two major contributors. One is, we had a foreign journalist killed in Magadi, and we have no conviction when we are coming to, and the lack of conviction is specifically why we are here today. Impunity, that we have people who perpetuate crimes against journalists, and we're not seeing them being called to justice. We are not seeing any prosecution. We are not seeing any compensations and all that. So when you do that, you have people who attack journalists. They are known, but we don't know what happens to the cases. We are not seeing accountability. That number one, it's a threat to press freedom, and number two, it causes Kenyan ranking globally to go lower and lower. And whichever way we look at it, the duty bearers, specifically now the police and public prosecutions, must hold people to account. And the problem we have with the police is twofold. On one side, we deal with them as perpetrators of these attacks, but on another side, we go back to them to investigate and arrest. And when they fail to do their job, and when we fail to have these prosecutions, that's what we end up here as a country. To the specific theme of this year is technologically facilitated harassment, especially targeting ladies. Cyberbullying, people sharing needs of people, using AI now to curate and edit people's photos and then circulate them is also very bad. So now we're moving from both physical attacks to technologically facilitated attacks. But most important is that we must demand for accountability. When we know the perpetrators, when they are known, we know where they are found, they need to be held to account so that the process can solve.
Speaking about accountability, as an oversight body, what are you doing to help ensure that justice is served to some of the cases that have been documented?
Two things. Number one, I have to say that we work very closely. Katiba here, they are experts in the corridors, and then we work with the Union of Journalists and Editors. What we do, like I've just released numbers, we document, and then we lobby. We document, we send the reports to the ODPP, we send the reports to the police, we send the reports to the Independent Police Oversight Authority. Because if you want justice to be served, you must have evidence and the documentation. So one of our full-time jobs, we do what we call incident reports. All attacks against journalists in this country, we have it documented, and we forward the files to the relevant bodies. And that's why I say now that we are partnering with Kariba here. I think a time is coming when we will need to push for a private prosecution so that we can stop this impunity. And we work very closely. The Union of Journalists here, they are good at advocacy. Advocacy and lobbying is one good deterrent to do that. But at MCK, we document and provide the files to the relevant bodies. We are not satisfied with the progress of those files. No, we don't know what happens after we move forward.
Having seen no action taken, for example, we have the active case of our colleague Wanjoi. When the deputy president was here last year, he said that he's going to see to it that IPOA is going to follow through. 1 year later, no action has been taken. The file is sitting with the ODPP there.
Yeah, like I said earlier, that some of these issues you can trace them to the relevant authorities, because on safety and protection of journalists, we talk about protect, prevent, and prosecute. So once we've taken up the matter, we expect that the Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions is able to prosecute the perpetrators. You said the issue of IPOA. We believe that that is also one of the problems that we have, because you remember even before that, before the deputy president made the promise, in the same room we are here sometime last year, we had the case of Mashara Gaido, who was abducted by people believed to be police officers. And we went to the office of, we went to IPOA offices in Nairobi immediately. We were promised heaven that action is going to be taken, but as you can see, nothing has happened. And you can relate that to other cases, that IPOA hardly take up these matters, because if IPOA was to do its work, then some of the cases we've seen will not be happening, because you can remember during the protest, even this year, Sabasaba and the anniversary of the protest, some journalists were attacked and injured, And these matters are actually reported. Like I said, that we have the responsibility to do our work as the Union of Journalists and Media Stakeholders. We do report. And now, once we've reported, we expect that the relevant authorities are able to move forward with those files. They're not moving, like I've said earlier in the morning, that sometimes you get frustrated. You go to the police, they do not carry out investigations, or if they do investigations are shoddily done. So to prepare the collapse of the case in the event that the case is taken to court, you go to the prosecution. They go there and present faulty charge sheets that have been presented to them by police. You've seen in some cases where prosecution have already done the charge sheets and presented to them. Remember the corruption cases. How come that the ones for journalists, they represent them as given by the police? So those are some of the challenges that we're facing. But all in all, in some cases, we've been able to move to court, and the matters are prosecuted in court, and they are in various stages in courts. Yeah.
You talked about seeking alternative ways to resolve the issues that are pending, like private prosecution. When are we likely to see that action being taken?
We've seen that, like even the case you're saying that happened here in we were able to get our lawyer and we were able to push for prosecution together with the Katiba Institute. And I think the case in court in a stage, and that is one of the cases that we've done. In several cases also, we pushed for private prosecution, and it actually they work. In the cases that we go for private prosecution, they work, and that is we usually advise journalists at the point of the investigations. Once you reported the matter, you bring it to us, then we give you a lawyer to start working with you from the point where statements are being taken, investigations are being taken, so that we avoid these cases of the prosecution presenting faulty charge sheets.
My name is Christine Kuria. I work with Katiba Institute. A number of cases that are in court, and for us as Katiba Institute, one of our key concerns is to promote constitutionalism and the rule of law. So the question we are asking ourselves, and the question that is key for us, is that the Constitution is adhered to. So you cannot be talking about Article 34, freedom of the media, and at the same time, this right is being violated. And that is why, as Katiba Institute, our core concern and our strategy in public interest litigation has been to ensure that the Constitution is protected and that the provisions that are contained therein, because when you talk about Article 35, Article 34, and of course tied to Article 35, which is on access to information, you cannot be talking about access to information, yet at the same time, there are violations of that, of the people who are supposed to be ensuring that Article 35 is respected. Because when you talk about freedom of the media, you are basically allowing journalists to be able to promote accountability, transparency, which is a key virtue within the Constitution, and also well elaborated in Article 10 of the Constitution. So that is why, as an institution, we have used public interest litigation as a strategy to ensure that these rights are protected. Where they're not respected and protected by the duty bearers, then we go to court to ensure that these rights are protected. And the courts have pronounced themselves various times on the need to ensure that media are protected. That has included declaring some of the laws unconstitutional, where they impede on the rights of journalists or the rights of the media to exercise their duties and to exercise their role as stipulated in the Constitution, and of course the enabling acts that have been enacted to ensure that the Article 34 and other articles within the Constitution are respected and promoted. Yeah.
Martin Masai. I'm a trustee of the Kenya Editors Guild and chair of the Ethics and Media Freedom Committee of the Guild. One of the strategies that the Kenya Editors Guild uses to protect journalists is advocacy. And so we have spoken for quite a long time as a guild about safety, about action such as prosecution, holding to account people who harm journalists, and they are known. And now it looks like the stage has come for us to stop speaking from these podiums here and get to those offices where action is expected from, to ask what is the status of this case with a list so that we know what is going on. Without that, we think that some of these officers that have that responsibility are join the ecosystem of impunity, because you don't harm a journalist, you harm another tomorrow and another one the next week, and it's quiet, and we pretend like things are normal. It's not going to be normal. As you know, we are having a convention, Kenya Editors Convention, by the end of this month in Mombasa. These issues are being discussed in those forums. And this year, our chief guest is the president. Last year, we had the the deputy president here, because we want to get this conversation to officers that can take action. Thank you.
First of all, is to laud the international community for bringing this conversation and for choosing a very critical theme on ChatGPT. We have waited for a long time for the world to recognize that gender-based violence in all its forms is happening in the media industry. And women particularly are disadvantaged because of many issues, including the patriarchal attitudes of our society. Over and above technology-facilitated gender-based violence, which, according to a research that AMUF did, affects almost 50% of women journalists in this country, there are other issues around sexual harassment affecting almost 60 to 70% of women journalists. And indeed, one sticking issue is the one on mental health. So I would like to join the rest of the media stakeholders. One, in holding duty bearers to account. The cases that have involved physical violence meted against our journalists, whether they are male or female, it's about time that we saw some action. Similarly, we are calling on media houses and media owners to come up with policies that are going to improve the environment and the status and the welfare of journalists across the board. And then, of course, we want media organizations to take advantage of the tools of trade that we have. We are very good at highlighting issues that affect everybody in the society, but we rarely talk about issues that affect us. And therefore, we want media organizations to come up with counter narratives that are going to counter the technology-facilitated gender-based violence that we have found disproportionately affecting women in public prominent lives. And so this year, we are hoping that we are going to move from talk to action, and we are able to see some form of results. When we come back, maybe to mark this day in 2026, we hope that we will be able to hold ourselves accountable in terms of the promises that we have made to the public, to the people of Kenya, and to the world. Thank you very much.